On to our second case. This is out of Spring Hill, Florida. This is where two parents have been arrested after one of their children set fire to a mattress in order to escape the most deplorable of conditions in this bedroom that this little boy was locked in. Investigators say that they thought that they were just looking into an arson case, right? They got in there. It's like, okay, what's going on? And when they looked at the condition of the room and the child, you know, they found feces and urine on the floor and on the walls. And that's when arson investigators are like, hold on a second, what's going on here? So the deputies determined that the child, who's an 8-year-old boy, and this is all according to court records, was often locked in this bedroom without electricity or natural light or heat or air, and was treated differently from the other children. The other children were girls. But apparently this boy, for whatever reason, the parents said that he had behavioral issues and there may have been some issues with, I don't know if there was mental illness. I don't know. But this is an 8-year-old child. So the way they handled this child was to lock him. I mean, and there was no way that he could get out. And he'd be locked in there for 11 to 12 hours. And they had the windows sealed so he couldn't get out that way. I mean, it's a freaking dungeon.
It is incomprehensible. It is abhorrent. I mean, you talk about having depraved hearts. You talk about cruelty. The parents admitted, Anna, that they treated their dogs better than they treated this child. Anna, he is 8 years old.
Yes.
First of all, I'm so amazed that he and his sibling, because one of the children, all of which are under 10, by the way,
yep,
gave him some matches under his door. So right. I'm so amazed that these children came up with this as a way to escape. That's the kind of hell that he must have been going through, that he took such desperate measures as to light his own mattress on fire. But that's what he did. And these parents, who, by the way, have since had they're charged, of course, and they're looking at a maximum of 30 years in prison, each of them, for this aggravated child abuse. All their children were removed from the home, thankfully. The scarring, the damage, the cruelty, what they have done to not just him, but all of these children is incomprehensible.
Because you have to imagine that the girls, right, who are being treated differently, that there's a part of them that feels guilty and shameful, right, that they have something a little bit better than their little brother or their big brother, right? Because that's just how children are. So the trauma and the fear in which they lived with, come on, you know those kids knew it was wrong to lock a child because there was like this big piece of wood that they would have. It was not only locked, but like this big piece of wood, like, you know, when you're Katie bar the door kind of thing. So the child couldn't get out. The other children saw that. This was no great mystery.
There was nothing in that room except a dirty, soiled mattress.
Yeah, and a blanket.
Nothing. Can you imagine?
And the parents said, this is in the police record, they said, well, if he needed to use the bathroom, we told him to yell, right? And then we'd let him out.
And by the way, sometimes they couldn't hear him.
Well, of course not.
So what is going to be interesting as this case makes its way to court, right, is will one parent turn on the other parent? Will one parent say, I knew that this was wrong, but husband or wife had such control of me that they made me do this? Because what kind of defense can these two argue? Mental illness? There's no theory here that corporal punishment because this child had behavioral issues would ever, under any circumstances, extend to this behavior, ever.
No, absolutely not. So the people charged, Kelly Davis, who's 36, and Daniel Davis, 37. They have a total of the 6 children from infant to 10, and and then the boy, and then all girls. Here's what I find very interesting, and we see this all the time in child abuse cases, where the system fails to intervene when there is an opportunity to intervene. So apparently the children were all homeschooled and rarely left the residence. So that could explain, and of course, in the middle of a pandemic, you may not find it strange that you don't see the children. Okay, granted, not the biggest of red flags there, given the circumstances. But in February and July, calls were made from 911 from that house. And the calls, there'd be a call and a hang up, a call and a hang up.
Correct.
I can't tell you how many cases I have investigated of child abuse where the children would pick up the phone, but they knew that if they went through with it, they'd get into trouble, so they'd hang up. And sometimes one of my cases, Alison, the little children, they were arguing amongst themselves. One would go to call 911. There was 2 dead bodies in the house. One would be calling 911, and then the other one would say, no, remember, mommy and daddy said we can't call the police, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if the children amongst themselves are arguing over whether even calling 911. Okay, so that's one thing. But the next one that is really interesting is that in August, a neighbor contacted the sheriff's department because she said she saw the boy in, I guess, her garage or a neighbor's garage going through a refrigerator. A lot of people keep refrigerators in the garage, but it wasn't in his home. So here he is digging through someone else's fridge for food in someone else's garage. And so the neighbor thought, this is not right. I'm calling the cops. And the same deputies who arrested, well, the same department who arrested the parents show up. And so they didn't go in the house. But the parents gave them a story, said, you know, our son has behavioral issues.
3 missed opportunities. 3 missed opportunities. Look, being a social worker is hard work, okay? And hindsight is 2020, right? I mean, what could have, should have, would have happened. But anyone trained, when there's a 911 call and the person hangs up, you got to investigate that.
You do.
You got to investigate it. Why was that number called? Is that person under duress? Are they trying to get a signal out? I mean, look, the burning of his own mattress is really an extension of the 911 calls, right? I mean, he's saying, could you send out a bigger smoke signal than lighting your own mattress on fire? When kids are involved, you have got to do better. You've got to take every precaution, and you can't just take parents at their word, because if you're abusing your child and locking them in their room, do you think you're going to say, oh, I'm sorry, we've done a horrible thing? You're going to lie. You're going to lie to the police.
And the police did not go into the home. So they wouldn't, had they gone into the home, they would have seen the room.
That's correct.
And that would have explained everything. And hopefully the child would have been taken and be put in a safe place and something happened to those parents. I don't know what to tell you about this case. I as sad as I am, there is this little glimmer of hope that fills my heart. And the fact that one of his sisters tried to save him by putting the matches under the door gives me hope for these children.
I'll tell you another thing, Anna, that I'm just happy that phone call didn't come after the boy had died.
Yeah.
I'm happy that final call and that final police intervention, although delayed, all the children are alive.
Mm-hmm.
They have been removed from their parents' custody. Their parents are in jail, and each of them are facing a maximum of 30 years in prison. And I will not be surprised if they don't spend a good part of that in prison.
And you know what, Alison? They're going to be treated better in prison than they treated their own son.
That's
They're going to be given a toilet. They're going to be given food, and they're going to be allowed to exercise. Right?
And I'm telling you, we have to see we have to follow this up, because I'm so curious what the defense will be. And I foresee them turning on each other.
Okay. And you know.
Yeah, I do.
All right.